Psalms 121, 123 through 125, and 128 through 130. The Psalms are poetry, yes, but they also help us nail down the story that we have been learning in the Bible. In fact, let's go back and just quickly review. From Abraham to the stories of David and Saul, we do pass over 1,000 years of time. Genesis 12, 2000 BC, to 1 Samuel, 1000 BC, is a lot of story, and frankly, it's all necessary story. They're not just nice tales to be added into an otherwise more important theology. I would turn that around and say that Israel, again, doesn't have a theology. They have a growing story, and that's how they're learning about God and what He wants from them. What have we learned, of course? Abraham amoned Yahweh. He turned his loyalty away from the gods of Babylon, and in doing so he was pronounced proper. We often use the word righteous, but that sounds kind of religious, even legal, and really that word is not a religious word nor a legal word. Tzaddik just means to be proper in the eyes of someone. We also have learned now through the stories of David and Saul that the same thing happened. May a man be rewarded by God according to his faithfulness. Amunah, David said, 1 Samuel 26:23. And of course, David would have nothing to do with idolatry in his life. The same could not be said of Saul. That was the cause of his unrighteousness or his lack of being right with God. Well, in Psalms, in Psalm 125:4 today, we pick up on two more words I want to add to the biblical story. One is just that simple word, good. We've often heard it. It's the word tov in Hebrew, very common word. If I were to say to you, are you a good person? Our minds automatically in the Western Christian Church go to the idea of behavior. Not so in the biblical story. David could consider himself good because of this story here. An interesting word also in that same verse is to be right, and that is usually used in the phrase right in the eyes of God. Let's ask that again. Are you right in the eyes of God? Well, in the biblical story we're learning, you are right in God's eyes for one reason and one reason alone. You're His person. You start the day by saying, God, I love you. In my heart, Yahweh, I want to be your person today. That's what makes you right. One more word, and this, by the way, is in 130, verse 4. And this word really does, again, get, it needs explanation in the modern church. We often think of forgiveness as the means into the Christian faith. We tell a non-believer they need to ask God to forgive their sins. The Bible has it the other way around. The cause of being forgiven is, we're right back to it, being a Yahwist. Think of our story and how our story would teach us what is true. If we had said to Saul, Saul, you need to ask Yahweh to forgive your behavioral sins, I think Saul would have known that the same thing would have happened with that prayer that happened in his previous requests of Yahweh. God would have not answered him. When we tell a non-Yahwist to ask God to forgive their sins, we're telling them to do the wrong thing. We're getting the order switched. First, they need to become a Yahwist. They need to give their loyalty to Yahweh and turn from the worship of another spirit. Then, and I believe it's automatic, they become a forgiven individual.